Welcome to the Heartification podcast, where I interview people on how art has affected their lives and what it means to them. Art has a very special place in my life. It not only makes me feel happy, but it allows me to make others feel special. This podcast is all about how art has made an impact on others' lives, for all ages, all backgrounds, and all walks of life. You can find more about this podcast guest in my show notes. Without further ado, let's welcome my next guest. She's an artist from New Brunswick. Please welcome my next guest, Katie Doiron.
Hey.
Hey. So the first question I always ask is, how do you define art?
All right. Like, art for me, it's kind of, I get asked that question a lot, and a lot of art questions I have a hard time answering because I find it's so subjective, and I can't really be like, all right, well, art means to me this. It's just, to me, art, I don't think there's any rules. There's some artists will say art is this, this, this. For me, it's just, I like doing it. It's fun and it makes others happy. That's kind of how I would define my art anyway.
Yeah, and it's definitely an expression as well, a form
Right.
to express yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
And how does art make you feel?
So, yeah, there's different types of artists that express feelings different ways. For instance, some artists, they feel good painting depressing things because that's an outlet for them. That's how they express their feelings. For me, I like to only paint positive, happy things, not really sad things. Not saying there's anything wrong with that, but for me, my feelings are all very positive when I'm painting. Even some orders, and people ask me to paint skulls or paint whatever, I'll say no, because I kind of want to keep my name very people think of me and they think of bright, happy colors, or nothing too controversial, no nudity, stuff like that. So I try to keep it happy, and that's kind of the feelings that, I don't know, probably I get the most out of. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Kind of the same with you too, right? You're not painting negative things too.
Yeah, no. I mostly paint landscapes with bright colors and stuff.
Yeah, because some artists, it's really divided. I find there's some artists and they only paint darker things, which, yeah, it's just different people painting different things.
Yeah, definitely. And what age did you start art?
So I started drawing probably since I was my mom says, since I could hold a crayon, basically 4 or 3, something like that. But my parents did notice that I was a little bit more into it than other kids, and a part of that reason why is because I was a sick kid, so I had severe asthma, so I couldn't go outside as much because I don't know, I was just a sick kid basically. So pretty much right now I can't go outside that much, so not much is new. Anyway, that being said, so that was kind of my activity, that I would draw more because I wasn't out playing with my friends as much. So it was kind of a different childhood. So when I think back in my childhood, I think a lot about drawing inside. So I think that's kind of why I started drawing so early, because I don't really think, I know you never asked me this question, but I don't think it's necessarily a talent. Some people believe that you're born with the talent, you have it or you don't. If you look at me through all middle school, comparing my art to other kids, sometimes mine was worse. I wasn't the best art student. The only difference with me is I practiced a lot more than the average person, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. And what inspired you to start art and start selling your creations?
So I went to a school. I did go to art school. I took 1 year art school just for fun, though. I really didn't think I would get a job being an artist. I didn't think that was realistic, and I wanted to be safe. So after I did 1 year of art school, I was painting for fun still and posting on Facebook. And then I saw people commenting oh, I like that. And so I sold a few paintings, maybe once a month. But I was hey, that's all I can sell. I can't sell more than 1 painting a month. That's a big goal. So then I was hey, I went to school again to become a teacher assistant because I said that's a safe route. But as I went to school, I had to pay off my student loan once it was finished, and like student loan stressed me out. So I'm like, okay, I got to pay off this loan right away. I'm going to start selling some paintings. So I thought, okay, I'll make a few, maybe I'll sell 5 and that might help. But I ended up selling 53 in 1 month, and I posted that on Facebook. Like that post, I said, I sold 53 paintings this month. I paid off my student loan. Like, I can't believe this in 1 month. So then a news story, like Global News, picked that up, and then they did a story on it. And then kind of from there, I just was like, well, I'm actually making more money doing this than I would what I studied school for. And like, I just kept painting, but I never tried to become an artist. I wasn't like, yeah, I'm going to sell. It kind of just came upon me, and I realized that it could happen, because before that I was like, no, that's impossible.
Yeah, that's amazing. Congratulations for selling 53 paintings in 1 month. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. That's when I first started. And I did abstract stuff, so that's a lot easier and faster. Like, for instance, I don't know. And it wasn't as good back then either. Like, I improved a lot in the past 5 years. Like a bunch of stuff like this, you know what I mean? That would just, I could make 2 a day or something when I first started.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so I know you do different styles of art. So which style of art do you enjoy the most?
Which one I enjoy the most? Like, what I'm working on, I worked on this last night. I'm going to show you. So that's 6 feet. It's like, so I like doing faces, especially that deal with like people around the world, poverty. I like to like bring awareness through that, because I feel like a lot of people don't about poverty enough. So to me, it kind of gives me like a purpose. Yeah. So to me, I feel like art shouldn't just be fun, because yeah, I like to paint flowers, but I also want someone to have a takeaway from it. So that's why I kind of like doing faces more, especially faces about poverty, so that people can like kind of think, oh, like I could help support this company, or oh, maybe I should be helping poor people. I don't know. Like, just, I want people to think a little bit in a visual way, instead of just like watching a news article, and it might not get to them the same way that a picture could. So
yeah. And how do you think art can impact people?
I think, like for me, like I was just saying, like visual learning, sometimes, like for me in school, I didn't do that well, but I can probably remember every classroom, the way it was set up, what posters were on the wall, like what teachers did visually. So I remember things more that way. So I think, especially now, like 2020, people are a lot more visual and short focused, and not everyone's reading or watching long documentaries. So I think fast, quick things like me posting on Facebook get more quick attention than maybe a documentary that someone might not watch. Like, that's kind of a weird example, but I'm just saying, like, I think art can impact on social media well to like maybe a younger generation.
And also, yeah. I saw that you're doing like art in schools. Yeah, so how do you think that can impact kids and change their perspective and help, raise awareness for bullying and kind of change that?
Right. It's like, to be honest, it's kind of a hard question, because I do that for 2 reasons. Like, I paint in schools. One, I'm like, hey, this is good publicity. Like, I always have to think, like, this is my job. It's a business. I can't always be donating. I have to think, what can I get out of this? It's kind of a selfish thing, but at the same time, I'm also giving. So I'm thinking that way, and I'm also thinking, is this actually going to have an impact? Like, I don't even know. Like, sometimes I do things like I'll paint rocks, like I did that thing to like help the community, or I'll paint at schools to help the community, or paint in the hospital. But I don't actually know if it's going to do anything. Like, maybe it won't do that much, but I still think it's the right thing to do. And that in your head, if you think it's the right thing to do and you're still not sure, you should still do it. That's kind of like my way I do things. Like, I'm like, because half the things I decide, I'm like, oh, I want to paint in bathroom stalls about bullying. Will that actually make a difference? I don't even know. But I think I don't think you always have to have all the answers to do something right, I think. Like, even if you're not sure, like, yeah. So yeah, I don't even know, like, half the things I can't be like, I know this is making a positive impact and I've saved so many lives. Like, I can't say that, but I still think yeah, kind of like my gut told me that I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, that's amazing. And
Yeah.
are you attracted to any particular artist?
Um, yeah, more so like art, yeah, like younger artists. I find a lot of art and history because I studied art too. Like I went to art school and I learned about all the different, I don't know, different styles and different famous artists, and it's super amazing, super talented. Like there's so many crazy talented artists that you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But not everybody wants that in their living room at the end of the day, even if that did take 5 billion years to make. So I get more inspired by like younger artists. Like I follow this Instagram site called Draint, kind of like paint, but Draint art on Instagram. And it's basically like a bunch of young adults that paint all around the world. And it's kind of more like 2020 paintings. And yeah, I like more newer stuff. Like I can't really say what kind of style, but I do like faces a lot because there's some artists and they literally only do abstract. And not to say that they don't have talent, but some, like I know some artists that they'll sell their stuff for like $5,000 a painting. And if you ask them to draw anything, they couldn't do it. But yet it's still art. It's just, yeah, I don't know. To me, that's a little bit weird, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And is there one form of art that affects you personally and another form that affects you professionally?
Yeah. So going back to faces, or yeah, like painting faces, I don't do often. Sometimes people will message me and say, hey, my kid just died last year from cancer. Can you paint my kid? So I'll be like, okay, yeah. Like, how am I going to say no to that? Most of the time I try to say no to faces because professionally it doesn't make sense because I usually price my paintings on sizes. So I say, okay, a 4x3 is $450 because most of my stuff, the timeline, it might go up and down a little bit, but it doesn't change too much. But faces take like 10 times as long. So it doesn't make sense for me to charge $450 for something that I can make 50 paintings in that same timeline. So that wouldn't make sense. But personally, I would get like emotionally more attached. Like I'm not going to say no to somebody, like stuff like that. With faces, it doesn't make as much sense to charge what I do charge. So that's why I don't do them as much. So that would be kind of like the exception to that rule. But I do like to sell my own faces for my own price. So that's why, for instance, well, this was actually a commission piece, but most of the time when I do make big faces, it's like pictures of nobody. Like it's just a random, like this is a guy that said, I like the random faces that you do. Can you make one? So I did. Like no one wants a 6-foot painting of their kid. But yeah.
Yeah, and that's amazing. So my certification project is all about giving back to the community.
Yeah.
To those with people with disabilities and illnesses. So how do you give back to the community?
Yeah, no, I think that's really great that you're doing that. And I think it's a good, I think it's good to be a role model for kids your age. Because I think a lot of kids, like you're how old?
13.
Yeah, I think a lot of kids in grade 8 that really care about dating, drinking, fitting in, being cool, doing the right thing. Because I was in grade 8, and I remember I didn't really fit in because some things like I didn't feel right with doing some things that would make you popular or whatever. So I think it's cool that you don't really care what you're doing. You're just being your own role model. So that's good. Anyway, the question you asked me is, how am I giving back with my art, basically?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a win-win for me. Like I do a lot of live paintings at big events. So when I started, I would say yes to almost everybody. People are like, hey, my kid is going on a cheerleading trip. Can you go paint at this event and help me raise money for this kid's cheerleading? So it's like, yeah, sure, like exposure, whatever, yes. So I just said yes to everybody. And then I realized, okay, 1, I don't care about this charity. I don't care about some kid's cheerleading. I don't know who your kid is. 2, I didn't actually make any money from this. I didn't get any exposure from this. It wasn't a win for me. So now I need to be a bit more selfish with the charities I choose. One, do I care about it? So that's why I only focus on sickness and poverty. I'm not going to I can't help everyone. And two, is it going to be worth it where there's going to be a lot of people there, or a little amount of the right people that it's going to come back to me some way. I know that's not the most humble answer because it's kind of selfish, but at the same time, I'm still giving back. I'm still raising on average $1,000 for a charity. So I might as well choose my charities. And I always do get back when I give back. I'll get on free news quite a bit. So that's free advertisement. I'll get, when I go to these right events, I get a bunch of new, bigger clients I normally wouldn't have. So it kind of brings you into this whole social network that I normally wouldn't have. So now I'm oh yeah, I'm definitely going to do it because it's a win for me. It's a win for them. I feel good. They feel good. So yeah, I've done quite a few. I raised about close to 45,000. I estimate it, doing live paintings, and then a bunch of murals and stuff for free. But then I would get news exposure. So again, raising $45,000 for these charities. It costed me nothing. I would ask, hey, can you pay for my supplies, $150 for my paint and canvas? That way I don't lose money, but I'm not going to charge you $500 for a painting. And then I get new clients. So win-win.
Yeah, that's great. How much of your art reflects your personality?
I think different personality types really expose different paintings, I find, because I know a lot of artists, and I find you can kind of see, one, what they paint, but two, how they paint. Like you said about texture and colors and stuff. I know some people that they have a lot of mental health issues, and they paint very gentle and light and almost fragile, and sometimes dark, and sometimes really amazing because their head, just the way their brain works. And then I see other styles. Like me, when I paint, I find it's very bold, loud, thick. The paint super thick. It's heavy. Sometimes it's too much, but it's kind of my personality too. I'm very much that way. So I find I don't know if that answers that, but personality types, I find they really come out through paintings. That's why I find it so important to advertise me with my paintings, because it's kind of half of me. My paintings are very much my personality.
Are you able to feel the emotions of your clients before you start their painting?
I would say so. That's why a lot of people will message me on Facebook and will say, I want a painting. This is the painting I want. I said, okay, call me. First thing I do, one, I don't waste time with people that don't actually want a painting. They're just wasting my time. And two, I actually get that emotional connection. And then I find out, okay, who they are, what they want. I think I do that subconsciously. I think phone calls are important when requests, because I kind of a lot of times you can just tell by someone's personality. Okay, they don't want something too crazy. They're more reserved. They want something very when they're explaining their painting. And then other people are I don't care, do whatever. But yeah, I've done some requests that are I had a woman and her husband killed herself, and she wanted a painting about mountains and a river, this spot that was his favorite spot. So I had to really that's definitely that to me. I'm not just painting mountains. I'm trying to help her heal in that. And she said that meant so much to me. And I hear a lot of stories like that. I think when I first started painting, I was this is a business. I'm painting whatever they want. I don't care. But now I've been doing it for 5 years. I'm doing people's anniversaries, birthdays. I'm hearing a lot about their lives, which I didn't really go into the business thinking that way. And so now I find the best way is to connect with your clients more on a emotional level too, because it helps me, because they're returning clients. If they feel safe with me and they feel I actually grasp that picture, then they'll come back. And yeah, for sure, it's definitely a good connection. I think how I run my business is more personal anyway. I'm not too professional, obviously, kind of a gong show. So I think it works out.
So how would you like people to get in touch with you?
Facebook's the best. So I like it when people leave their phone number, on my art Facebook page, because sometimes people message me in my personal, but so Katie Doiron's art Facebook page I find is the best. But yeah, I think that's the best way. And then people just say, hey, I want a painting, or can you make something you made before that's similar? That's basically how it works. But that's my life.
Well, thank you so much for being on this podcast.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. It was super awesome. And yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. Remember, if you want to find out more about this guest, please go to my show notes where I have all the links needed. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to my podcast series and help me by sharing it, leaving a rating, and a comment. I hope you join me on my next podcast. Bye for now.